And we're back on the Fowler Show. It's time for the Richard Fowler Rehab. We're going to do something a little different this week, and for the next coming weeks. We are going to turn this into our weekly report from the Hill from my good friend Lauren Burke. She has a lot of titles. One is managing editor of Politics365. She's also the owner of the Crew of 42 blog, and we want to welcome her to the show. She's a new part of Fowler Nation. Lauren, welcome.
Hey, how you doing? How are you?
I am good. So what is happening on the Hill this week?
What is happening is that John Boehner is getting one step closer to not being the Speaker of the House anymore, I think.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, they had a vote today on a farm bill that, quite frankly, everybody expected would pass. Obviously, the majority in Congress and in the House is Republican-controlled. And the bill went down with 62 Republicans helping 172 Democrats kill the bill, which the Democrats, of course, were quite fine with, because this bill cuts $21 million in food stamps. But John Boehner is increasingly having these problems again where he cannot get the majority of his majority to agree with what he's doing. And we're going to see it come up again on the immigration bill. And I can guarantee
Lauren, the question here is, and has everything to do with what folks out there in YouTube land and radio land, is the Hastert rule, in which, John Boehner's always followed this rule where he doesn't bring a bill to the floor unless he can get a majority of his caucus to vote for it. And he just has no control of his caucus. So does this mean an end to the Hastert rule? Will there be a new Boehner rule, or?
Well, I don't know whether we want to, we don't really care, I think, about what we're going to call this, whether it's Hastert or Boehner. What we care about is, can these people govern this country? And obviously, with the country being in a situation where we have, obviously, high unemployment, a record number of people in poverty, and we have a Congress who is not helping with that. In fact, the stock market today plunged the minute that farm bill went down. We had the worst day of this year for the stock market, which is pretty surprising when you consider we've had a lot of very good days with the stock market. So, what we care about is can they govern? Can he get enough votes to pass something out where there's a consensus in Congress? And what he just proved today is that he can't. And these little pieces of jargon that we use here on the Hill in the media with regard to the Hastert rule and the Boehner rule, the question is, can they get something to the president's desk that will be signed into law that will help the country? And increasingly, it looks like the answer is no, not only on the farm bill, but on immigration.
I mean, and that's crazy. And the thing about it is, the farm bill is more than just farming. It covers food stamp, it covers farm subsidies to local farmers, African American farmers, Latino farmers. It's a big bill that does a lot for this country, and it's stalled because it seems as though, one, John Boehner can't control the Congress, but it also seems as though they're having something. This is politics at its finest.
Well, it is, and the fact that the business savvy Republicans in the House can't protect agribusiness, which is what the Farm Bill is really about. It's about subsidies to big corporate farmers. That should show you that, if they can't get that done, then that's real big trouble for them. That is big trouble for them. I mean, this is a speaker that on the day that he was elected, on the first day of Congress of this year, January 3rd, he had people voting against him. So, you never know what can happen around here. But when your whip can't even count the votes and can't even figure out that people like Paul Ryan are going to vote against the Farm Bill, that's kind of a problem. And I think that this is probably the precursor to much more fun to come, to say the least.
I got to tell you, Lauren, a good friend of mine once said his grandfather told him the first rule of politics is you got to know how to count. And clearly,
oh man, knowing how to count is one thing. I mean, you can see if this thing came down to maybe 10 or 15 votes, but when you have 62 defections from your party, now clearly you're going to have the Tea Party defections. You're going to have the people who are not going to vote for it because they're saying there are not enough cuts. So you're going to have the Michelle Bachmans. Okay, fine. Paul Ryan, Bill Young from Florida, who's been here for 1,000 years, voting against, and your whip doesn't know that. Your whip doesn't know that these people are going to vote against it and that you're going to be embarrassed. So it's a huge problem.
And Lauren, I think the problem that I hope in the last couple, we have about 30 seconds left, but if to sort of explain the whole ideal of in the Congress when these bills come to the floor, it's procedure that the ranking members and the chairs and the subcommittee chairs usually vote with the speaker.
Well, exactly right. But see, the problem is this speaker's got a good 40 members that he doesn't know what they're going to do. And if he doesn't even know what his, we're trying to figure out around here, did the whip tell him what the count was? I mean, do these people talk to each other? And then they're in the same party. So you're going to get some more fun and games to come.
More fun and games from Capitol Hill. We are joined by the Fowler Nation's own Lauren Burke, our lady on the Hill. Thanks so much for being with us, and we'll see you next week.